Thanks,
Thanks,
Ron.
buddy. Thank you. All right, we'll call this meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Steve, would you give a roll call, please?
Commissioner Lilly,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas. Here. Commissioner Stanfield. Here. Commissioner Shaken.
Here.
Commissioner Jackman. Planning and zoning administrator Travis Allen.
Here.
Planning and zoning administrator Assistant Lucy Myler here.
All right, thank you for that. We'll move on to reviewing the meeting minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at those? I mentioned to Misty that the meeting was probably called by me since I was in attendance.
Sorry, that is fixed now.
Okay. Other than that, I didn't have any issues. Anyone else have anything you wanted to raise?
No.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
We will be approved meeting minutes from April 14th.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Travis, now you do your agenda.
Yeah.
All right, we will move to the discussion items. Now, did you want to cover the one item you have? You added?
Yeah, I'd like to have someone make a motion to amend to the agenda for planned unit developments as conditional use permits. Or with conditional use permits, just add that item to the agenda.
You sent us that.
So I just need someone to make a motion.
I move that we add the, whatever you just said.
Planned unit developments as conditional use permit, or with conditional use permits. Agenda to the, or item to the agenda.
You have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries, so we'll let you move forward.
All right. First item is common spaces. After doing some research with both the city of Pocatello and the city of Rexburg, I come across some good examples that may help with common spaces that go along with planned unit developments. The city of Chubbuck, on this example, 1702-140. That is city of Pocatello. You'll see it in the highlighted section. They do open spaces regardless of the PUD. They request 20% of the net land area. Rights of way and areas included in these private lots shall not be counted toward open space. A required common open space shall include but not limited to usable recreation areas or facilities. Example, parks, clubhouses, athletic courts, pools, and trails. I had an opportunity to speak with one of their planners when I went to an APA conference in Pocatello, and he said that doesn't include parking lots.
That's not.
Does not. So that's the only thing he didn't like about it, and that he thought that 20% was a good number.
He didn't like that
He didn't
include it?
Yeah, I didn't like it didn't include parking lots, because there was kind of a way that could get mixed up as, so if you had a parking lot and then you put a basketball hoop by it, and you allowed them to play basketball in the parking lot, then that would be kind of a amenity, a shared common space to play basketball there. So there's kind of, it wasn't tied down exactly, but not enough reason to adjust their code to tie it down. On this other document here, it says City of Rexburg Development PUD on the top of it like this. I highlighted a couple things in their example. If you go down about halfway down where it says 4.10.070. Oh, I forgot.
Thank you.
It's this big,
She has
And
one.
I was wondering when I read that, how people felt about 20%, but I'm glad to hear what you just said.
So on the Rexburg one, if you get about halfway in there where it's highlighted, they do a 10%, but note that this is a common space. It's gross land area, so they don't take out the streets. And then they use,
Even smaller.
so that's even smaller. But if you go down to section E, property developed under the PUD approach should be designed to abut common open space in similar areas. So if you have two PUDs next to each other, you try to get that open space next to each other so it looks like it's more open, or so it can be more user friendly. It has a section down here for hardscape. Some common open spaces may include walkways, patios, recreation activity areas, picnic pavilions, gazebos, and other features, so long as such surfaces do not exceed 35% of the required open green space. So of that 35% is of that 10%. So you'd still have to have grass, but this includes all these amenities that you can have that could have impervious surfaces. So that's kind of locking it down. And then in section G, you can see I highlighted a couple of key words in there. At minimum, open green space shall include either a playground with play equipment or pathways with benches and tables through natural or planted landscape area. So you can have at minimum, one green space. So they require at least a playground or a pathway of some sort for something in their open space, not just lawn. I still need to review with like Garrett if we can put exceptions in here that exclude parking lots, or if that would be considered verging into a taking, requiring too much costly items in a development, or that we didn't include stormwater retention ponds in that green space. Could be considered dual purpose if they maintain it and keep grass growing in it, but it could be just mosquito nests for the spring or fall. I mean, I don't know, some people, I don't know if you plug it up and make an ice skating rink out of it, I don't know, but we didn't have that cold a winter either for ice skating, maybe in Rexburg, but not here. So there's some considerations. I'd like your input on what you feel about 20% at a net or 10% at a gross, or a combination of the two. I think we should open it up for discussion.
I like the 20%, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think 10% just isn't quite big enough,
Okay. And net or gross?
especially of that.
Net, okay.
I think
20% of that.
maybe too, because when you just said that, it just occurred to me that we don't want to take away from, the expense and what it's gonna cost them to lose that place.
Mhm.
But are we really worried about that? Or are we worried that kids in these developments have a place to play and be safe?
Mhm.
Because I'd sure rather them lose so much property
Mhm.
and have the kids have a playground and be safe than playing basketball out in the parking lot.
Yeah. Well, do you think, like on Rexburg's example, where they have a required common activity, and then give them a choice of a playground or a pathway with benches? Do you think we ought to adopt like a condition like that to satisfy that concern?
I think that's a good idea too. I mean, I like the 20%, I like having, because when they were talking about the one over by me, I can't remember the names of these guys, but yeah, when they were talking about those, the people were like, there's no place for them to go walk, so they're coming down these other side roads or whatever. If they created a, kind of a walking path, it would be a good place to be able to get up, exercise, take kids for walks, ride bikes,
Mhm.
and not
Yeah, well, that's-
be on the road
Yeah.
or parking area.
I think we also want to consider one other thing. PUDs, yes, you're gonna have children in them.
Mhm.
PUDs can also be over 55,
Yeah, senior living.
and so you don't need all of this stuff. when you're over 55.
Walking
So,
path would be good.
Well, you might have other amenities. Each development has its unique features, depending on if you've got to annex it in, if it has irrigation water, if it borders a ditch or something like that.
maybe you need 2 different levels,
Yeah, 2 different levels.
so that you don't need as much space dedicated
Mhm.
for open space, common area, whatever, for senior citizens as you do for youth.
Are you staying on the senior citizen?
I didn't say that out
I
loud.
don't know. Would you like a walking path or a pickleball court?
Walking path.
Okay, then I don't think you're that old.
But now, that being said, if I lived in a 55, or, because you don't have to be 55 to live in a certain percentage, they're less than that, but.
Yeah.
If I was 55, I still have kids, grandkids,
Mhm.
that will come over, that will
That's
Good
how I
news.
feel.
Is it? Yeah.
that area.
Still need a place to play while you're there visiting.
I mean, and Jackson,
Maybe not as much.
we go over there and we use their swimming pool. As a
Mhm.
family and get together, and I know they have boat clubs and stuff like that in there.
Mhm.
In their meeting area, so, and it seemed like, when we were there, there was younger kids, but there was older people trying to come in and use the swimming pool, looking at it,
Mhm.
reserved. It wasn't just for younger families.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't disagree, we could look at having 2 different, groupings depending on
Okay.
what type of.
Should we write it up like the example in Pocatello where they use an example of parks, clubhouses, athletic courts, pools and trails? That gives you quite a variety of amenities that could be used in there. Other than, there's the green spot over there.
But I think we need to also include a percentage in grass.
Okay.
It says 20%, obviously someone's not gonna build a clubhouse that's gonna take up 20%
This thing.
of the space
Mhm.
because of the expense of that, but.
Well, that's how this section with Rexford comes in for hardscape. They require 10% net, but out of that 10% is 35% for hardscapes. So out of that 10%, 2/3 of it still is green.
But I don't agree with, what I don't like about the Rexford one is that they're including your roads,
Mhm.
everything like that within that 10%.
Yeah. That's,
To me, that's just throwaway square footage, when they're developing it. To get to point A to point B.
all right, well, what I can do is I can draw up an example, figure out what section we need to put it in. Currently, I think in our paperwork, we have, this paper, it says, Title 11, Chapter 6A5. If you turn to the second page, the only thing in our code that has anything definite numbers right now, and it has an exemption to it, is if the PUD is less than 1 acre, then a minimum of 100 square feet of usable private open space has to be for each unit. That's the only thing that we have in hard numbers. And it has a big exception on it right now for just developments that are under 1 acre. So for example, I think Townhomes of Cromwell, I think they're a little over 1 acre, but they use kind of a retention pond. They're gonna put a swimming pool in as well. And they have another little green area back in the back where another retention pond is as well. But I think that's a better design than some of these others. The plat for Honeybrook 3 that came through with the big open space in the middle and all the units down around the outside. I think that's probably the best design so far that we've seen. It has a lot of open space. It has ditch water rights though to be able to irrigate that much green too. So we kind of have to take that into consideration when we review these projects. We've kind of tightened that down to require them, these developers, to maintain them water shares and water rights and use them after the fact, not just up the back of the city and go off culinary water, because we're running short of that these days too. And we're trying to keep up with that demand by getting more wells and water shared in order to do that. Our well 14 is doing good. It's going out for a bid for the design of the facilities around the well. The well performed well and passed all its tests, so it should be coming online probably beginning of winter and this fall. That's what they're predicting. But
It's not gonna happen.
that's what
Equipment's 9 months.
9 months. Okay. Well, we'll see. I got to sit in on the bid and did the evaluation for the water shop, and that was awarded to Resin or Resin Architects. But we had about 10 different applicants, and we had a scoring system. All the department heads with their different areas. They had their own specific area of expertise, but it seemed like we all scored about the same with about the same acceptance of the top 3 bids. So I'm sure that will be the same nomination, but like you said, there's short on parts and design, and some of the parts are specific to that design.
Yeah.
And I understand that. That's kind of getting off topic on what we're doing here.
So the one thing that I was gonna say about what we have in the code, 100 square feet.
Mhm.
Thing that I disliked when I came to council meeting is that they counted their back patios
Mhm.
as part of that square foot. It's not how it reads.
Mhm.
And wanted to say you guys are freaking idiots. but that's
Yeah.
it. But
Well, that's why
probably
we're
escorted out.
that's why we're looking at this, right?
Yeah, but
Trying to fix that.
But that's the whole point is, 10 by 10 isn't a whole lot of
Space.
space. You can't even
That's a small bed.
play much. Yeah, it is a
Yeah,
small bed.
It
You
is a
can't
small
do
bit.
much with it. But of their backyard, that's not, their little patio, that's not part of that 10 by 10.
Mhm.
That's an additional 10 by 10. So I think we need to make sure that we specify that with whatever we do,
Right.
that, if it's the 20% or, whatever, it does not include
The patio.
their backyard, their patio
Okay.
portions of that property.
Okay.
How do they divide those? Do they have fences between them?
They have like little vinyl fences, that's what they draw.
Just a little.
6-foot barrier, and they probably don't even go toward the house. It's just one straight.
Just right to the
barrier.
end of the patio.
So yeah, that's something that I need to help draft and to get reviewed with Garrett of what we can ask for from these examples. And I got input from you guys, so I kind of have a good idea what you guys would like. I'll draft that up and we'll put it on the next work meeting. And we can see how, if you're satisfied, if we can go any further, or kind of get an idea from Garrett what our limitations are.
You should be able to do what we're talking about, where we have 2 counties and cities right around us that.
Yeah, are doing that already. Yeah.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be. I do, like, where you have this red exclude parking lots, I agree with that 100%.
Okay.
Whether there's a basketball court on there or not.
Yeah. Because it could be taken back over by parking, or they couldn't even play basketball. if it-
Exactly, I wouldn't want to play basketball by my car or my truck.
Yeah.
I-
Riding their trikes.
I don't like dance.
Well, I guess.
I like that too.
My boys play.
Recreation kisses on your truck.
Okay, so artificial turf?
Yeah.
Artificial turf, I don't have any changes on that, but I did have a discussion with the mayor. He opted that, yes, we can put information to provide for artificial turf on my website under planning and zoning, but an actual permit that someone has to look at and keep track and document, and even a signature for acknowledgement saying that they've read and understood it, is a little bit more than what we have resources and time for with the staff we have, is how it's kind of explained. If we see a lot of use of artificial turf, and we have a lot of calls come in like Misty or with Adriana or me, and we see an uptick in that, we can always adopt the code. We can always create a
You
In the
feel about
meantime,
that?
you have created something that's out of compliance.
That's where we're at.
Can't afford to take care of, these code recommendations.
So that's what
Just saying, if you're not gonna do it from the get-go, then you're gonna have those that are, that the term grandfathered in, that may or may not comply.
yeah, I mean, that's,
Did you say mayor for a reason?
Or may not.
there was no pun intended.
I have
Uh,
reason, eh? Five
I
words.
just heard mayor.
Liar.
Well, I just wanted to say that was kind of the discussion for as far as resources go. We can always have that as we pick it up. I know that we even have like accessory structures that are out of compliance because they just put them out there. And without, having to go through everything, I mean, how do you go sometimes to get them into compliance? Make them, do we make them go back to the manufacturer and provide engineering sheets and hound them until they do? Or do we have to actually use city resources to actually pay our city attorney to go and cite them? And once we turn that over to a judge, we don't know what they're gonna decide what the penalty is. I think this is a good step to be aware of this and provide this information so people are thinking about it. Or if they do call up. I mean, I was at Home Depot during Mother's Day and they had a little A-frame sign in the alley asking for call this number or scan this barcode so we can come give you a quote for artificial turf at Home Depot. They didn't have it on hand, but they had installers that were approved to install their material or their product. So it is out there. I think if we have dry consecutive years like what we're planning to have this year, people might turn and look at artificial turf a little closer. I still like to do the whole green grass. But I think artificial turf is hot, even with it installed properly. But some people, that's what they like. So
I don't wanna know.
they don't want to mow. They like to vacuum and comb it or blow it.
Well, do you have any feelings? Do we go with what the mayor says or do we insist?
I'll be honest, I don't think we have a choice. Whether we try to pocket or not, if he says they don't have the resources, they don't have the resources.
Okay.
And we're at least getting some knowledge put out there, whether someone will read it or not.
And we do have the option, although there may be some grandfather to address it later. All right, anything else you need from us on that?
No, I think that'll do it. I think we'll schedule that amended ordinance for hearing in June. We usually have to have, the deadline for hearings in June would be May 26th, I think. So, sounds right, okay. But I thought it would be worth the discussion to come back to you guys and let you know, not just put it out there and say tough, not have it in a meeting somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's the right thing to do. All right, next item is,
New legislation.
yeah.
Do you have Near Map? Can you log in Near Map? I shared with you a Near Map project. I'd like to talk about it. So the first piece of legislation, I got 3 pieces of legislation here. They look like this. Written like this with the line numbers down the side. This is going to kind of cause a little bit of a ripple effect. The first one is what they're going to call starter home subdivisions. And then the second one's going to be accessory dwelling units. Yep, that's it. And then it goes into short-term rentals. So
Constitute short-term
less than 30 days.
Airbnbs.
Airbnbs. So if you look at the short-term rental, or not the short-term, the starter home subdivisions, this is kind of the start of the ripple effect that we're going to have to deal with and kind of manage a little bit. If you got this sheet right here, this is a whole new chapter that I've written that'll be it'll be under like conditional use permits. This is gonna allow us to be in compliance with the state statute, but not have to change every dimensional standard and schedule of uses across the whole board. They're gonna say if a developer wants this, they have to meet this criteria at least, and this is what the state statute allows us to use and how they allow us to use it. So the first thing I'd like to point out on the top section there, it's a lot that is 30 by 70. That is the minimum lot frontage and depth that the starter home subdivisions are allowed. That creates a 2,100 square foot lot. By the time you add the setbacks that is allowed part of this, that's in this part of legislation, 15-foot setbacks in the front, 15-foot setbacks in the rear, and 5 to each side. That leaves you with 800 square feet left for building footprint and not even enough for a driveway. Now, they also say that you can't have lot sizes, restrictions saying lot sizes are less than 1,500, but that is how the politicians did their math. If you do 30 times 70, that makes 2,100 square feet. And then they add the other restrictions saying you can't put a limit on less than 1,500. You can't get to 1,500 with them same depths. Then the examples are down below. That's what a 1,500 lot looks like. Top one is a 50 by 30. So if you took the minimum 30-foot width that they allow with 50, that gets you to 1,500. And that leaves you with less than 800 square feet for the footprint of the building on that lot. And then the last example down on the bottom is if you use the 70-foot depth and you wanted to get to 1,500 square feet, you'd have about 21.5 feet frontage to get to there. And that would leave you with that footprint for a home. That is 40 by 11.5 foot, almost about a single wide trailer.
Small single wide.
A small single wide, yeah, very skinny one at that. So in order for a developer to want to even touch this, they'd be half crazy. What I wrote in here to try to manage this a little bit is that we will require it to be on a permanent foundation and be considered real property. So the idea and the purpose behind these starter home subdivisions is so they had an affordable housing that someone could get in as a starter and be able to get some equity and build a little wealth so they can buy the next one, right? Or get it paid off quicker. That's the whole idea. But if you put in, say, a manufactured home or a mobile home on blocks and don't put it on a permanent foundation, it's considered a personal loan and not a mortgage. And so you can't gain any equity in the home. You can't really gain any equity in a manufactured house, not unless it's stick built as well. You can take a manufactured house, put it on a permanent foundation, have it re-inspected that the gear has been removed, and then that can become real property with a mortgage on it. But still, a manufactured home still doesn't gain appreciation and value. You might be able to get some equity in it and be able to turn around and sell it to buy your next one, but they don't really appreciate. You might get some equity into it. So that's what we've written in here so far. We're trying to find also a definition for stick built that is pretty solid. I haven't been able to find something like that, but that's also a suggestion from the mayor in order to kind of manage this. This would be like a application for a PUD or a conditional use permit in order to get approval for this type of subdivision.
When we are talking starter homes, affordability, what are we talking money-wise?
They didn't discuss that in the purpose for this. This is what they thought the answer was to this solution.
Everybody's gonna have a different.
Everybody's gonna have a different opinion on that. Some
I know,
people,
but you have a range, like,
well,
If you think about it, townhomes or the buildings that everybody's fighting against is kind of a starter. And you're not getting, you're getting a little bit more square footage, but not a whole lot. You're connected to two other people.
It's stick built.
I think it would also depend on the city, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's located in the city, as to how much it's gonna cost. If you've got something that's near downtown Boise, you know, then
Well, I understand that, but like here, the Collins places are all within 200 to 300.
That's where I would guess your starter homes are now. And they're not gonna be less than 200. Just think about, foundation, hookup fees, and basic.
Can you go back to that
Basic
project
basic
too
home.
and show the big lot next to that little lot?
270 or 280,
Zoom out a little bit.
and then
See that big lot right there? Can you zoom in on that?
For
So,
example, and all that goes, it's gonna have to do with the salary, whether or not they are transferable.
yeah, and I think
Anybody else
I think
wants
that's also desirability for the developer. They're gonna have a return on their investment as well. If you look at this example up here, I drew this out. Starter home subdivisions have to have a minimum of 4 acres. This is drawn to scale. This is the field that's north of East Airport Road. That's the house that's out there. If we zoom out a little bit, Misty, you can see that's East Airport Road. You kind of see how the developments below it, how it sizes up. Now, if you zoom back in,
That's not easy.
or what is that? Is that Kanishi?
Gators Court, that's commission.
Kanishi Road? Yeah. All right, zoom in on it a little bit. The big block.
Okay.
Purple. So this is a 4-acre square. These are 2,100 square foot lots. There's 11 down the right-hand side. You'd have 11 down the left-hand side. There's 8 in that middle. You'd have another 8 on that side, which makes 36 on that. This is good. 22 and 16, 37. 37 units in there.
16 and 22 isn't an odd number.
Oh, well, it's 38.
6 and 2 is 8.
38.
So 38. So you got a problem with 38 right there when it comes to different codes. So you see the black in there?
And again, there are no garages.
Yeah, there's no garages. You'd have to stagger the
So what you're gonna do
homes.
with 2 cars.
Yeah, you'd have to stagger the homes so the driveway can come up along inside the setback and be able to pull clear off the street or have another parking space behind it.
we were just talking about green space.
Yeah, we were just talking about green space.
Well, that's the one thing I was gonna say. Same as PUD, we should try to incorporate in the
Yeah.
environment.
Well, we can deny these on like common spaces, but we can deny them on available public services. If we,
We can deny it all we want, council would not.
I think they will try to deny this, but what you see up there in black,
2 of them will, 3 of them won't.
what you see up there in black are streets. 60-foot wide is our specification and adopted in our street specification. Fire code requires a turnaround after 151 feet. So that's why you see that loop in the middle there. And then you'd also maybe have to have a second access in the back. So take away that net space. This is what you're going to look at, what it's going to look like on a minimum 4 acres. So that's real tight. Misty, if you zoom out and then zoom back in down by Slate Mountain Homes, Slate Mountain Mobile Park.
Are PUDs required to have 60-foot streets?
If they want to,
Private and-
if they want to dedicate them as a right of way to the city, yes.
But if they want to just
If they want to keep it a private
maintain it
lane.
themselves, what does it have to be, 26 or something?
The fire code, I think, says 24.
Makes a lot more room to park a car.
Yeah.
So if you just say that, the streets will not be dedicated, it will be private and, maintained by
Mhm.
the people inside, then you've got room to park.
Yeah, but then you still have to have fire hydrants and turnarounds for fire apparatus, and fire lanes. So this is the same block laid over Slate Mountain Homes. You can see it's about the same density. They're pretty close to it. So that's kind of what we're up against. That's kind of that's kind of, we have to make this available due to state statute, but again, I don't think anybody would want to try it.
Well, that's irrelevant, really.
Yeah, it's irrelevant, really.
We have to comply with
We
state
have-
statutes.
Yeah, we have to comply with state statute, so I hope you had a chance to review this. And if you agree with most of it, let me know, or if there's any changes. I haven't heard back from Garrett on this one yet. But that's the best place that we can think about putting it between
Which subdivision did you say that you would make this over the top of?
Slate Mountain, it's the trailers
It's
on
Arctic Circle.
next to Arctic Circle. Arctic Circle's down there in the left corner, left bottom corner. And so it's not quite as dense as that trailer park, but it's pretty close.
And the trailer park's just on, it's not from.
It's on blocks, right?
Yeah, that one's on blocks because it's considered a mobile home park, even though the model they used for all their mobile home houses are really, by state law, they're considered park model RVs. That's what that model really is, because they all have that little patio off the end.
And the idea is that this is like the density.
Yeah, this is the idea is compared to density and size. You can see that's probably, if I couldn't take my project and turn all of them to fit that, but I laid it over it.
Could you zoom in a little bit more on that?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit more. Now pull it down so we can see the parking up towards the top of the screen. Thanks.
So is that where the parking is for all of those units?
They have parking there and then down to the bottom left. Some of that isn't parking because that's part of like fire turnaround.
Yeah.
You see that? And then parking all around the back. I don't think they're supposed to park there, but they do. Because they gotta have a fire truck to be able to get around back there.
Right, so you're talking about parallel parking there in the back.
Mhm.
Could that be the issue with the no garages on these starter homes?
Mhm.
Can they be required to have a parking area? So
Um,
they're not tying up streets and
They all park back there, because I see it's full all the time.
It says cities may condition or deny approval on starter home subdivision where the city determines that existing or planned infrastructure is inadequate to support subdivision. It says nothing in this section shall prohibit a city from enacting their, that's more restrictive. It doesn't, here it says prohibit parking front, no, that's prohibit front and rear setbacks. It doesn't prohibit requiring parking, but by the time if they say, okay, I want to go by the 1,500 feet square rule, and you put 1,200 square feet of a house, do you have parking?
So with stick-built, I mean, the one thing with the stick-built house, you can go up.
Yeah, you can go 2 stories
You
with
can go
that.
up, go down, you can make it
Yeah.
a 3-story house. So
Yeah,
800 footprint. You can add up pretty fast.
that's right.
With the smart.
Good,
One
yeah,
of the things that's,
go ahead.
one of the things that's mentioned in here is that we have to adjust our comprehensive plan.
I've looked into that. I was gonna start with the code first. It does say on here in section 2 that this has to be done by February 1st, 2027 by resolution, ordinance adopted, amended, or repealed in accordance. This law actually goes into effect, the very last section on the back page. Law goes into effect July 1st, but we have until February of the next year to get all these changes put in. I'm tackling this plus these next couple pieces of legislation that are kind of related to it. So we have to allow these starter home subdivisions anywhere where we have residential zone. That's another bad thing. This density, the way I drew it up here, you're looking at about 14 units per acre, which is comparable to our MDR2 for lots. Minimum lot size for MDR2 is 5,445 feet for an interior lot, 644.5 for a corner lot. So the densities is almost it's kind of between MDR2 and HDR1, which is 30 units per acre.
What would you say for all residential, so even low density?
Yep.
Oh my stars.
Yep, that's how they wrote it. Any residential zone is how they wrote it. And so what else they wrote for any residential zone is the ADUs, accessory dwelling. So you kind of see a ripple effect going here. That small of lot, and then say, okay, I want an ADU as well in the backyard. Where are you gonna put it of any mentionable size? Yeah, it says I can have it, but it also says you gotta have a minimum setback to the rear and to the side for your ADU, 5 foot. And you also have to be usually 10 foot from another structure. So, yeah, we can have them applications and you can sit there and say, you can't meet setbacks. And we can rely on our already adopted code, and we can rely on fire code as well. Saying, yeah, fire code ain't gonna let you have the ADU there. And if they sit here and say, well, state law says I can't, I say, well, fire code says you can't. You know, but on these, going into these ADUs,
Just a second, Travis,
okay,
before you go on, item number F. There's just some spelling. Subdivision S is intended to provide certain benefits. Just need to make that a little bit.
as is intended, okay,
That's on item number 4 and
okay.
It's not, I can't find it right now.
All right, well, it's good. The editor can't find everything, except for the editor with over 30 years of experience.
Hold my wife down.
Oh, all right, we got some more eyes on it.
She can.
All right, but moving on to,
Well, one other thing, there's a couple of places in here, this is what I was gonna bring up.
okay,
There's a couple of places in here where you have zoning administrator / building director,
yes,
and then others where you just have zoning administrator.
okay,
It needs to be assigned all the way through. So if you can identify those, you could do a find
okay, yeah, I can do that.
with Word and just make sure that it says that every place, so it's not one by one place.
Unless you want to really.
Well, I'd like, for most of this, it's gonna be zoning director.
Yeah, and if that's what you want to put, then it ought to be.
Yeah. Because it'll go through the application process through planning and zoning first. And that's what this is set up. This is a new chapter 12 in there.
That's why you got that other document where you're adding.
Yeah, the title page.
All right, so you want to talk about ADUs.
So in ADUs, they did provide a definition of what an ADU is in the state
You
statute.
want to direct us to that,
It's on page 2, about halfway down. It should be highlighted.
which document?
This is Senate Bill 1354.
54.
Mhm.
Okay. And where is it?
The second page, about halfway down, it should be highlighted.
Thank you. Yep, I see.
The accessory dwelling unit means a self-contained living unit that includes its own cooking, sleeping, and sanitation facilities, and that is located at the same lot of the single-family primary dwelling. An accessory dwelling unit may be internal, attached, or detached, but does not include motorhome, camper, recreational vehicle, tiny home on wheels, and other such similar dwellings on wheels. So it eliminates people trying to use an old car or an old camper or something like that. They did mess up a little bit here. If you go down below that where it highlighted either in 2A, says allow for either one internal accessory dwelling unit within a single family dwelling or one detached accessory dwelling unit. if you go back to the definition, they covered internal, attached, or detached. So they kind of forgot about the attached when they started amending to this.
Are they saying that you can only have, like trying to say you can only have one
Yes.
additional unit?
Yeah.
That's the way that I read it.
That's
Yeah.
the way I
You
read
could
it.
only have, you
Yeah,
could either
and
be attached or detached, but
Exactly.
not both.
But not both.
And not attached. It could be internal or detached, but it can't be attached.
Oh, I see, that's the point you're making.
That's
the
Oh,
point
okay, I
I'm
missed
saying.
that.
They
Yeah.
missed that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they need to hire Denny to do their proofreading before they vote on these things. So yeah, they missed that on that. And so I am gonna take advantage of that when I work on this. We're gonna go with the either one or the other. There's other things in here saying that prohibited limiting the size of the accessory dwelling to less than 1,000 square feet or 75% of the size of the primary dwelling. So it doesn't say detached or internal on them. We can limit it to 1,000, 1,001. And 75%, if you think about it, if it was an internal one on the primary building, the ADU would be bigger than the rest of the house, right? Because it's 75% of the square footage. So I'll get over it, but I have some issues saying, okay, you can have an ADU and it's gonna take over 3/4 of your house. And then you can still live in that last 25% that's left over. And technically, this is turning an interior ADU with an already single-family dwelling into a duplex, technically. By definition, we have to allow these, and we want to stay out of the short-term rental stuff. And we want to keep everything that could be a short-term rental under the definition of an ADU. But we still have to adjust our code even for a short-term rental. So if they say, okay, Mike, this meets the definition of a short-term rental, and I want it to be considered as a short-term rental, we still can go back and kind of argue the ADU part. So we don't care about your short-term rental. We don't care about, you still have to follow all building codes with your ADU. Whether you do a short-term rental or a long-term rental, that's besides the point.
Mother-in-law.
Yeah, or your mother-in-law or whatever, but in here, so in our code currently, we only allow ADUs in rural ranchette with a deed restriction and an owner occupancy requirement. And we only allow ADUs in LDR2 and LDR1 with a conditional use permit. But if you read through this code, it prohibits off-street parking requirement, not unless these conditions are in there, like if the street is not paved or designed or constructed for on-street parking, or it's a 1/4 mile from transit or employment area or commercial services, and they don't define these things, they just mandate it. So we're working with that. It says prohibit owner occupant requirement, so I have to get rid of that in rural ranchette. And I have to make a standard for ADUs for all zones, all residential zones, because there's no such thing as an accessory unit in a commercial zone. It gets kind of sticky too if it's on a piece of property where the primary building is not considered a residential for residential use. So if they have a primary building and it's utility use, or it's a garage, or it's a barn, or something like that, whatever the bigger building is going to be considered the primary building, and then the accessory rules follow after that. So there's a potential to put an ADU next to a big shop in a residential zone.
The shop man.
Well, ain't that,
Sounds like a single man's dream, right?
yeah, like a barnadorium or whatever they call
Or,
it.
you know, it's not that different from a lot of businesses outside the US, where they live on site.
Yeah, where they live
They
on
have their
site.
business right there and then they live on the property.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go through what this prohibits off-street parking requirements, imposing impact fees or increased utility connection fees. You still have to charge the same for single family. The biggest heartburn we kind of run into with this is if a person wants an ADU, will the city require them to have separate water and sewer hookups for that ADU? Or will they allow common hookups with the primary structure? That's kind of giving us some heartburn right now. Our city, well, currently,
It's a separate unit.
yeah, it's a separate unit.
But not if it's internal.
Correct.
Yeah,
But if
it's not internal.
So, but that was my thought with internal, why even classify anything? I mean, just because I want to make this section for my mom, who's
Mhm.
90 years old, inside my house, what do you guys care?
Yeah.
I mean, I've given up square footage of my house. for
Yeah.
that. I'm not getting tax break,
Mhm.
not getting anything, so, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's giving us some heartburn on how to write that or which way we want to lean. Currently, our city code says every individual structure that is a dwelling unit needs separate connections. You could come back and argue and say, well, my lot isn't big enough to be divided again. I don't meet the dimensional size requirements for what I'm zoned. Why can't I hook into my primary house connections? Or do we say, okay, if you're gonna put this on this lot, we're gonna require separate connections because this lot is big enough to be split again for the zoning area. You know, and then we're kind of having a little heartburn there too. So say we have this big, huge lot and we allow the 5-foot setbacks. And then they want to split that lot. Well, now that new lot, that ADU becomes the primary unit or the primary structure now because it's the largest structure on that lot. But it doesn't meet primary setbacks because we allowed it to be developed as an ADU with the 5-foot setbacks.
Why would you allow them to split?
That's,
It's an ADU.
yeah,
That's not a structure. I mean, it's not a primary structure.
that's right.
So it shouldn't be able to be.
Yeah,
split
well,
off that. I mean, I think the idea for an ADU is they're getting my mother. I
Mhm.
use her every day. She is 89 years old. She still lives on her own. Bless her soul. But, you know, if she had to move in with us, something like that, and to be able, you know, I'm gonna kick myself in the foot, but not to have to pay utility hookup fees or something like that, makes it so it's financially more
yeah.
relevant to be able to give her some of her own.
Yeah, and so that's the argument too. You give her privacy. Why should I have to pay another base rate and meter reading for the water bill and another base rate for sewer when it's all on the same lot
For an 89-year-old woman. that
for an
uses
89-year-old?
so
Or 21-year-old that can't finance himself.
Well, what,
Is 80.
yeah, but what the ripple effect I'm worried about is every ADU turning into a short-term rental.
That's what I was gonna say. It's okay while she's still alive, but then
And
when
then what are you gonna do? It becomes my wife's hobby shop.
Hobby shop, yeah, with the nice sink and shower and
but I can see it being an Airbnb.
air conditioning, power.
Would it make sense to separate the internal units and the detached units?
Well, I'd like to, but where they didn't in here for the 70,000 square feet and 75%, they didn't separate it there. So say I wanted it detached and it was just over 1,000 feet, but I have to look at the primary structure and determine its square footage and say, okay, is your new, you still have to, by definition, you still have to be smaller than the primary structure. So say you went 99% and said, yeah, that's still my ADU because it's still smaller than the primary structure. So we still need to put that 75 on there or they're gonna be building 2 full houses in one.
Well, even that, like my house is 2,800 square feet.
That's right.
75% of that is 2,100 square foot.
Yeah.
That's
That's another house.
a good sized house.
Yeah.
And my question is, if you have something like that, it's detached, would it make sense to require a separate hookup for that?
Yes,
Seems to me
that size of the
But
house.
can they, in an ADU, and I know you said something, but can they have multiple bathrooms or just a single bathroom?
It doesn't say,
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
wide
specify.
open.
So, I mean, 2,100 square feet, that's a good 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah, and you'd want a
Large
larger
kitchen.
water line, right, to feed that whole nother
Exactly.
house, or at least a water line of the equal size with its own connection, with its own meter.
Yeah.
You
Do we
know,
have any of these accessory dwellings that are Blackfoot now?
we do have some out there, and like I said, currently, we had to have a deed restriction, have the owner occupied. There is a few out there. There's some illegally built internally, that it's hard to have the code to go after them or justify it.
Well, and internally ones, to me, is completely different.
Yeah, well, we have code that says you can only have one entrance from the front. And I'm like, how do you do an internal up to 75% of the house and not have a separate exit or entrance and be compliant with fire code, right? So if you wanted to have its own entrance and they couldn't access the rest of the house because you walled it off, and it has its own heat sources in there, it can start its own fire in there, do you need fire suppression like between the ADU and the rest of the house? Yeah, like 1 hour, because we do that with firewalls between garages, attached garages, right? And how would it be any different for an internal ADU with that person's sleeping quarters to protect each quarter from each other? I mean, the fire can start anywhere, but you need to delay it enough for that person to be aware to get out, right? So,
Sounds like there's just a bag of worms.
yeah, so that's a bag of work I've been working on for 2 weeks.
That's why they pay them.
That's why I'm bringing this up, kind of letting you know what we're up against. I thought this would be a good discussion for tonight since we was kind of leaned on the agenda anyways. This is kind of what we're looking at. I gotta get rid of the owner occupancy requirements. I got allowed in every residential zone.
Owner occupancy, well, that's homeowners. And one who owns the main dwelling, of course, is gonna want a homeowner's exemption, and it has to be owner occupied.
Nope, it says here that we can't put that on there. It says prohibit an owner occupancy requirement for the primary dwelling or for the accessory dwelling units.
That's the state.
So, but they wouldn't get it,
They wouldn't get homeowners.
they wouldn't get homeowner, I mean, I don't get the homeowners on their second house, because
Yeah.
my daughter does, I wish they got this.
You know, I see this ADU more than the mother-in-law. I
Mhm.
see it for the 27-year-old child
I-
who's married
Yeah,
and has a kid and needs
Well,
some place to live.
I would hope for that, but I see it all becoming short-term rentals.
But you can't, I mean.
And they could switch back anytime from a
you
short-term
can't-
rental, right?
You can't always plant the.
You can't prohibit it. And currently, that's what we have for a rural ranchette ADU, is that it had to be owner occupied, whether directly or indirectly, and that actually specifies what relationships that is. And we can't do that anymore.
Well, this is what you're saying, you're gonna start bringing us all this stuff.
Oh, we're gonna have, so that's my biggest section, right? It's 27 pages, we've seen it before. And sometimes we've had to make little changes. This is gonna be a huge change. I'm gonna have to incorporate other changes, like we found a inconsistency between our general description of MDR 1 and 2 zones on what is allowed for housing units in them versus our detailed description. So we'll update that at the same time.
Sounds good.
We
All right.
wanted to stay out of the short-term rentals as much as we can, but we're gonna adjust so we can stay out of that. We do have like a requirement with our ADUs saying that we have to match the same kind of building material and style of house as the primary structure. That could be considered extra cost and delay of the project if we require that. And so I gotta have Garrett.
So it has to be like my house is brick, so I have to.
Yeah, and so they could say, well, that's unnecessary cost. We can bring in a bully barn if we want, paint it red because your house is red brick and call it good,
My
right?
boulevard black.
Yeah, but if we say you gotta be brick, then that's gonna triple your cost, right? To brick something. right? Brick is nice. I like it. Heats, cools, sound barrier, awesome. But it's expensive, right? I loved living in a red brick house when I had one. I wish I still had one. But
Is there one over on York Drive? An accessory dwelling on York Drive. I remember someone coming in asking for that. And we never did hear if they did or didn't. How do you know if they do or they don't? I mean,
well, so there's a difference between accessory structure and accessory dwelling. If they want a certificate of occupancy for a residential use or occupancy, then they have to have it inspected and it has to be built to building code and have all of the inspections done just like a regular house. They have to have forms of foundation, rebar, they have to have sheeting inspection, insulation, electrical, plumbing, sheet rock inspection. Now they're requiring efficiency records to prove that you're so efficient in heating and cooling this house.
So I suppose it's possible for somebody to try to build an interior one without all that stuff, right?
Yeah, but they couldn't.
It's not legal.
It's not legal. If they say they went and built something that was just a bully barn and it didn't have all the amenities, it fell short on the definition of an ADU, like it didn't have sanitary, like it didn't have a sink or a toilet, or it didn't have heat in it, it's kind of a summertime thing, or culinary, stuff like that, we wouldn't issue a CO, and if something happened, it'd be on the homeowner's head. It wouldn't fall on our building department as far as when inspections were done or if it was built to any building code. Anything over 200 square feet is required to have a building permit, whether it is classified as a utility occupancy or residential of any sort. So yeah, they're really going outside the lines if they do that.
All right, well, we got the next item,
Okay.
right? The one you wanted to add.
Yeah, the one I wanted to add, which is,
That was the combining of
the planned unit
land.
and conditional use permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was-
Yeah. So we have this page that says planned unit and it has highlighted with conditional use permit. Have that page, Article A. And then the title page to go with it. So as you can see on the title page, our planned unit development is smashed right between conditional use permits and other conditional use permits. Talking with Garrett with the history on this chapter, it used to be in the same chapter as conditional use permits, but we had to separate it for some reason. We couldn't remember exactly why. So the first reaction was to put it back in there. Garrett said, no, we need to have it separate according to some state statutes. But we was allowed to change the title of it. The title with planned unit developments with conditional use permit. And then the title head is going to be added to show that as well. And then section 2, subsection A, applications for planned unit developments and required conditional use permits shall be combined as related permits for the convenience of
And
applicants.
that should say convenience instead of conveyance.
Convenient, yes, it should.
Convince us.
Well, just convince people that.
That's what.
It was a nice try.
I thought I copied and pasted right off the state statute.
Well, it could be the state statutes wrong.
They didn't have any.
I don't know that they're infallible there.
Yeah, I know.
I know that they are.
No, they spelled it right. They spelled it right in the state statute. I did. Maybe my spell check
Well, when it's,
mirrored the other
your
direction.
spell check is gonna say, well, that's a nice word.
Yeah, that's
all
all.
it's gonna say.
Yeah, we like convince. That's nice and soft.
Spelled correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so as according to Idaho Code 67522, and I provided a copy of what that Idaho code looks like. This was stated during our city council meeting with both motions to reconsider. That was objections brought up in both motions. that they claimed that we didn't do a conditional use permit. We said they're the same application. We've improved our application as well that says, will this be a PUD? They check the box. And then it also says this will be, in the description, this will be a conditional use permit with the PUD. So we've updated our application to reflect that. This is an additional code to reflect that. You can see it was never intended to be malicious of any sort. It's just kind of been moved around. And so that left space for someone to push that issue, right? I wouldn't say they intentionally misinterpreted it, but it fit their narrative.
They were looking for any
Well, we
objection
brought
possible.
that up in our meeting
Yeah.
about this, and Garrett said the same thing, and I'm like, well, that's not the way the code reads.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're addressing it, so the code is correct, because I was with them.
Yeah.
It's not how it reads, whether he interpreted it that way or not, that's his interpretation.
Yes.
Well, this will tighten all that up.
So this will tighten that all up. This is the statute that says we can do that. This statute is in chapter 65 of the state statute, which is also part of local land use planning and not part of other sections that deal with procedure or local government, how local government's set up. This specifically points toward how P and Z should operate in local governments. I do have in here the other state statute, and it's highlighted as saying that, yeah, it requires a special use permit with the PUD. So, and then it refers back to another section. But if you look just at this, it doesn't, it should refer back to in that section, back to this 67-65-22, but it doesn't. But we have a very intelligent attorney that knows where all this is and knew what he was talking about when we had to address these motions to reconsider.
Very good.
So that will be, I can put that there. No one has a problem with any of the language other than the spelling.
Everybody okay?
And we'll be able to put that in the hearing in June.
Please do. All right, just for what it's worth, I will not be here for the next public hearing and the next work meeting.
I think we're all gonna
very
be on.
able vice chairman.
Can you make sure nothing's on the agenda for the?
Nothing controversial.
Nothing controversial. We have a,
You
She
you
said
can
nothing.
guarantee that?
I am 97% sure. How's that?
Now we are having something controversial.
What I can do is finally nod.
Well, so I put in
Something
your,
on the
I
agenda.
put in your letter to the commissioners that we do have one conditional use permit allowing a car dealership in a light manufacturing M1 zone.
Where is that one
Was
going?
It's going where the old pro rental shop
Oh,
was.
Pro's not there anymore?
Pro's not there anymore.
That should, how much I pay attention, I know,
Mountain
but
West.
Well, they got it.
So they're putting in a car dealership. Car
Mountain
dealerships
West, or-
fall more into personal service shops than heavy equipment rental. So we're gonna put a conditional use permit in there just to make sure everybody's on
So
board.
this is across the road from the old Sputnik building.
Yes,
I don't think you're allowed to talk about this before this year.
okay.
It's
Well,
like-
Too bad, we already did.
Too late.
Well,
Well, we didn't
Maybe
say anything,
you, Miss.
just wondered where it was at, I mean, it happened.
so we have hearing notices going out for the fence code amendments. I talked to the building official, he'd like to keep the 7-foot height in there, because that's how the building code is written.
She's an idiot.
It's on the record, just.
It's on the record. Notices
Saves
went
his
out.
face too.
Notice went out for the traffic study requirements. We did see a correction on them, and I wasn't able to get them out to you before this meeting. In there, so we were requiring after 100 units or 7 acres, or 100 trips or 1,000 trips in a day. Well, to determine if you're exceeding them trips, you'd have to do the study. So we're gonna remove them two requirements. But we're gonna maintain the 100 units, 7 acres, and if ITW requires it, we require kind of clause in C, or IT, I don't, Department of Transportation, sorry. ITD is something else that's on the oil.
IDT.
So that's a good,
I don't have patience.
well, I lived in Colorado for 8 years and it's CDOT there. So, and ITW was a clutch company I used to have to order auto parts from. So that's why it's still stuck in me. I did all the special orders for CarQuest distribution center in Pocatello. So I did the return good as well. So some acronyms stick and are hard to change. I still have OE meetings, and we don't have OE meetings here. It's operational excellence meetings. They're like glorified safety meetings.
So can I move that we conclude this meeting?
You certainly may. You got a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks to everybody. Appreciate y'all.
Have fun on your trip.
Yes.
How are you going? Whatever you do.
Well, this is our 50th year of being married,
All right.
so we